What's going on, Eurovoxers? I guess today I'm saying Dobre večer, Claudia.
Привет!
Nice. I wish I could go further than that, but that's all I got. But of course, today we're talking about Ukraine and Vidbir. I know that lots of people are really excited for Ukraine to be back in Eurovision, especially after last year, having such a great song that got pulled out at the last moment. This year, no shenanigans, hopefully. Let's see them back at Eurovision, back in the final, and let's talk about who it's going to be. So before we talk about the 6 songs that are in Vidbir's final, I want to know, Claudia, how are you feeling about this selection so far?
Oh my god, Vidbir is literally my favorite selection because Ukraine is my favorite country in Eurovision. They always send songs that I loved to the bone. A couple of them, they are mine in my 100 top ever. Like the one from Jamala, the one from Show Me Your Love from Tina Karol, Be My Valentine from Svetlana Loboda, Ruslana, Wild Dance, Verkas. I absolutely love Ukraine in Eurovision. And for me, this year's selection is actually more special because, as I mentioned in my articles, Tina Karol is a judge. And she is literally my favorite singer. I absolutely adore her. So yeah, I'm very excited about Vidbir this year.
And I believe that that shirt that you're wearing, the sweater or whatever it is, I think that a Tina Karol cover art or something?
Yes, it's here. It's one of her songs. It's called Sila Visoti, which means the power of heights. And it's a very good song.
Well, I mean, certainly lots to look forward Well, certainly there's lots to look forward to. I know that this selection is unique from others in the sense that they've kept both modern songs and songs with traditional elements in it, and they've really done a good job at blending those two sides of music together and tying it all together with some really nice staging. I think that there are lots of great choices out of these 6 songs that could do really, really well. The question is, who is it going to be? So with that, let's get right into the first one. I believe this was the winner from the first semifinal. This is Kroot with 99. What are your thoughts on this song?
When I first listened to it on YouTube, I was like, well, yeah, just another slow song. But when I heard her in the first semifinal, I was like, oh my god, this wasn't even between my favorites, and now it's literally my favorite. I wanted her to win, and I was incredibly happy that she won the semifinal because she brings that instrument, the bandura, I think it's called, yes, bandura, and it's like getting you and putting you in a story, and it relaxes you, and I find it really beautiful and soothing, and she's one of my favorites. Yeah.
And one of my favorites too. You said a lot of great things about it, including the fact that it does have this kind of storybook side to it, with the hand-drawn visuals in the backdrop and the kind of dreamy sound of it with the, what was the name of the instrument again? It was
Bandura.
Bandura. Yeah, it all just feels so kind of mystical, and it stands out for all those reasons. I think that before I actually saw it performed live, I thought that maybe it would get overlooked by most people for being a little bit more understated than some of the more out there entries, and certainly there are a lot of out there entries in Vidbir this year.
Yes.
But it was just very elegant, and I would love to see this go to Eurovision. I know it's not going to be to everyone's taste, but I just think that whether or not this were to do well, I just think it would be a really, really nice moment, and one that people would appreciate. So another song that made it through from the first semifinal is certainly one that stands out visually. This is Jerry Hale with Vegan. How do you feel about this one?
It's really interesting and out there. You don't expect somebody to make this kind of song. It's different from what Ukraine usually sends. and I like it visually. For example, in the semifinal, I don't know if you noticed, but in the background there were like little fruits with the heads of the judges, and yes,
I didn't notice that.
yes, Verka was that fruit that looks like a star. I don't know how it's called. Tina Karol was a strawberry, and yes, and the other judge, I don't remember what he was, but I found it really interesting, and she is really popular in Ukraine. She and yes, she has a fandom, and I think she would do great. She has potential, yeah. How about you? How do you feel about vegan?
Well, I like the performance. It's a novelty song. The fact that it's got a sense of humor to it. I do really like the music. I think that the novelty is a little bit too much for me, but it's certainly still something that I enjoy. And I wonder too, now that you've mentioned about the judges' faces being on the fruits, which I totally didn't mention, I wonder what could they possibly do in Rotterdam if they were to try and do something like that. Like, would it be the hosts, or would it be the faces of other competitors or something?
But I don't know, but I found it like really, really amusing.
So the third song to make it through from the first semifinal was Go A with Solovay. This was, of course, the one with a mixture of traditional sounds with an electronic beat to it, and also some really interesting choices like birds chirping. That was kind of like, there was a rhythm to the birds as well. How do you feel about Solovay?
Well, I think the translation of Solovay, if I'm not mistaken, it's nightingale. So it would be like, what's with the birds? It would be like, yeah, that's with the birds. So what do I think about it? The first thing that that I think about this is that it's in Ukrainian, in their language. It's the only song that they have in their language in the selection. It's also traditional, and we know that usually traditional does well in Eurovision, except maybe Poland last year. Yeah, the only thing I'm scared about with Solovay is that they might have the same fate as Tulia last year, and I wouldn't want Ukraine to not qualify because I adore it. But the song is very good, like it's very good. But I really hope she improves a bit vocally, though. Yeah.
That was the one thing that I noticed, because this stood out to me when I was listening to the songs before watching the first semifinal. It was one of my favorites kind of instantly because of those mixture of sounds. And yeah, vocally she was a little flat, but I mean, not the worst vocal performance. I don't think.
Of course, no,
might have just been an off day or whatever. And yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Tulia, because you do hear that kind of vocal sound in it, and I don't know if I would be worried that it would have the same fate, but perhaps the one thing that I'm wondering is if the staging that they currently have, if it's kind of fast enough for the pace of the song, because I like the fact that their movements are subtle and slow. But I just felt like maybe there could be more happening with the camera movements and that kind of thing. But nonetheless, great studio song. Maybe it just needs to come alive a little bit more in the performance is how I see it. Moving on to semifinal 2, the winner from that semifinal was Forci with his song Bonfire, and this was quite interesting because it had certainly like a trap or hip hop kind of beat to it,
Yes.
but his singing was a little bit more soulful. How do you feel about this song?
Well, this was actually one of my favorite songs. I had it in my playlist before the second semifinal. I was listening to it. I must say that I prefer more the studio version. I don't think it's that it's good, but I don't think it's that great vocally yet. But maybe in the final they will be better. What I like the best is that his voice, Jeffrey's the one that the one that sings the song Bonfire, um, the vocalist from Dvorchi, his voice is very soothing, but I think he can improve a bit vocally, and I'm confident that they will do great in final. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and that seemed to be the thing that a lot of people noticed. It was that vocally it wasn't there all the way. I think it to me it just sounds like a quite a challenging song to get down vocally. So hopefully it comes together a little bit more in the final. I think again this would be a pretty good choice, and it has a really really cool blend of styles, which I certainly appreciate. Whether or not this is the best one, I'm not sure, but I do agree with you in the sense that I think that it will do well in the final.
Young is new love. Give us a new love. Ooh, yeah. Sit and wait. Body, body, fire.
So the second qualifier from semifinal 2, which had us all dancing along, was Kayat with his song "Call for Love." I have a feeling that this is one that you enjoyed. Am I right?
Yes, it's my winner. It's my favorite because I'm still not over Marouf.
Yeah.
And I'll never be over Marouf. And the song, the first time I listened, I was like, Marouf, is that you? And I really enjoy the song. Like, and we kind of need in this Eurovision an upbeat song, because there are a lot of ballads. I love them, but there are a lot of them. So Call for Love would be like a great addition to the list, which is not a ballad.
For love, for love. Go for love. Go for love.
I think that certainly of all of the up-tempo dance songs of this selection, this is definitely one of the better ones, and it does kind of remind me of Marouf's song from last year. The only thing that I don't quite like about it is the vocal style leading up to the drop. It doesn't really sit that well with me, but at the same time, it also doesn't really like ruin the song. It's just a moment that kind of takes me out of it for a little bit. But with that said, it's a lot of fun. I love the colors with the staging, the black and green. I think it looks really, really nice. And again, it would just be a pretty solid choice. So the last artist to qualify from semifinal 2 is David Axelrod with his song Horizon. This one, of course, is a ballad. It's a little bit more of a familiar ballad than something like Kroot's song 99. Your thoughts on David?
I must say that I didn't expect him to go into the final. He wasn't a sure qualifier to me. I was like, I overlooked the song, to be honest. But apparently he did great. I watched Vidbir, and apparently he impressed the judges very much, and also the public, because he came fourth with the public and he came third with the judges. So as I said, I didn't expect him, but he was very strong live, and as the judges said, as Tina Carroll said, he had the purest performance, something like that. So yeah, he is not my winner. That's obviously, but that's obvious. But well, I think he does great vocally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think to your point that it's certainly true to say that he gave pretty much the best performance that you can get with respect to this song, because it really was vocally. I want to say perfect, but I'm also I don't think I have the credentials to say that it was perfect. Nonetheless, it was very strong and very powerful. I guess the kind of the one area where it really falls short is whether or not this is like a modern song that will stand out in the way that it needs to, and especially considering the level of modernity of the rest of the songs in Vidbir, I can understand why this might have been overlooked for some people. Nonetheless, I think that it is certainly a deserved place to be in the final,
Yes.
certainly because the performance was there all in all.
Never in my life I felt so strong. Ever since you, baby, came along. You're my horizon. You're my horizon.
So before we move on to the winners, or who we think is going to be the winner, let's talk about some of the songs that unfortunately got left behind. Because I know we've been saying many times already that this has been a really great selection, and tough decisions were made. Which one of these songs are you disappointed not to see in the final?
Well, I think the most shocked I was with the fact that Elena Ivashenko with Get Up didn't made it to the final, because I was actually counting on her going to the final because she has a great voice and she actually won X Factor and she won The Voice Kids. And I was expecting actually to do very well, but unfortunately she didn't. I don't know what was the missing ingredient. Maybe the song wasn't strong enough because the performance was. And I also enjoyed the staging. And she had the high note in the end of the song, and she reminded me a bit of Jamala's performance of 1944. So I'm sorry to not see her in the final.
Get up and go. There is your world. You can do everything.
In my case, the two songs that I'm quite disappointed didn't make it to the final. Both come from semifinal one. And the first one is from the artist O, which is what I'll call them because I have no idea how else I'm going to say their name, with the song Tam Kudi Ya Yidu. This was just a lot of fun. One of the best use of overlaid graphics, in my opinion, because this is something that really irks me when it's not done right at Eurovision. And this was very simple. They had this pixelated aesthetic throughout the entire song in the background, and then it finished with the pixelated versions of themselves on a computer screen. I thought it was all very nice, and I really enjoyed the song. It went right into my library after I heard it. So I am quite disappointed that it didn't move on. But yeah, so that's one of them. And then I absolutely have to talk about Katia with her song Peach. Because
it was out of this world. That was out of this world. So
absolutely. I mean, I know that I'm going to piss people off when I say this, but this literally was too good for Eurovision.
Yes.
I would love to see someday when they could sense
people are ready for what Katia Chili was bringing. That's what it's more like. It's not that it's too good for Eurovision, it's that people are not ready for it.
yeah, which I mean, as far as I'm concerned, those two things are kind of one and the same, but certainly I think that if Ukraine was to choose this song, we might be looking at a kind of Conan Osiris thing from last year, which obviously Conan's song wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but one that a lot of people really appreciated, especially the level of artistry behind it. That's certainly how I feel about Katia and her song. Man, I just talk about an out-of-world experience. So guys, those are our thoughts on the songs. Before we go, let's decide who do we think is going to be representing Ukraine at Eurovision. Claudia, go ahead.
Well, I have a strong feeling that Vorci has like big chances to win, but I strongly wish Kayat will win.
So I'm definitely leaning more towards Kayat or Tvorci winning. I think that if it was up to me, I would go with Krut or Goe. I think also possibly Jerry Hale has a chance. Wow, it's really like, why don't I just throw everyone's name out there because I really can't decide. But truly, I think that we could be seeing Tvorci or Kayat go. But again, I think that there are lots of good choices to make, and I think it's always more exciting when it's a difficult choice rather than an obvious one. So well
Yeah.
done for this year. I can't wait to see who's going to be going to Rotterdam in the end.
I'm
And,
always so impressed with Ukraine. They bring
Yes.
so much quality. They never disappoint in their selection.
The only thing that they absolutely can't do is withdraw this time around, because if they do,
Yes.
there will be hell to pay, I'm pretty sure. from the
I don't
Eurofans.
want to talk to them anymore if they withdraw again.
But anyway, guys, that's what we think. What do you think? Make sure to leave us a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to reach out to us on all of our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Reach out to us as well at eurovoxx.net, and we'll talk to you next time. See you guys.
Спасибо, до свидания.